So, if you're listening to this episode, it's all about prepping for a deposition. Maybe you're worried that you are getting deposed at some point. Maybe there's a threat of a deposition, or maybe you're just wondering, what the hell is a deposition and when is it used in a divorce case? If any of those is what you're going through right now, we are ready to talk about that on this episode. But before we do, Andrea, I want to tell you that today, it's a weekend that we're recording, and I did something. I took our own advice. Can you believe it?
You got your car washed.
No, I did not. I did something even better. So, yesterday was one of those days where it was like filled with kids' activities. One of those days where it's like, how do I even fit in a meal? So I was kind of tasked with, all right, I only have so much time. I could work out or I could pretty much like shower and do my hair. And it was one of those days that really I could use a hairdo, like a wash, but I had to sacrifice. And so my sacrifice was your hair isn't getting washed. Today, feeling like a loser, thinking, all right, I've got to record the podcast. I've got other kids' activities, yada, yada. I did exactly what we talk about, which is get your ass up, get in the shower, do your hair. And by the way, if you can't see me, I have big Texas hair today. I mean, I went all out and I have an outfit on, full makeup. We are ready to go. And girl, guess what? I feel good. This is exactly what we talk about.
Are you going to wear this full outfit all day today, or is this just to record and then you're putting on sweats?
Unknown, because I feel pretty good today. Maybe I just go full glam to all of these children's activities and just show people that I actually took a shower today. I don't know.
Wow. That's really like you're really putting on your Sunday best. I
I
like it.
agree, right?
You are fully done. I like that. And I'll say I halfway did it because I was sitting in pajamas and I'm like, I got to go record. I did take a shower and I did put on self tanner, not on my face clearly because you can see me, I'm translucent. But that saying like you're 10 pounds lighter with self tanner. So I did like a little bit more. So maybe I'm like 12 pounds lighter because you feel a little bit better when it's January and you're not clear in terms
I
of
agree. I mean, I am a little shocked that you didn't put on your face because that in January is pretty much the only place you can see. But regardless, let's hop into what we're talking about today. All right. So, if you don't know, we have an amazing private community that always is talking about certain issues they're going through in their divorce. And this week, a question came up in our private community that we had not addressed yet. And it was a question from a listener basically saying, I'm worried. I think I'm going to be deposed. I don't really understand why in a divorce case. And that led Andrea and I to think about the fact that if you're out there and you're going through that in a divorce case, you might be really worried. And there's a lot of unknowns. So that's why today we're talking about depositions, what they look like, how you can prep for them. We're going to get into the meat of depositions.
because we want to make sure, like every other topic we cover, that you're armed with the right information and not inundated with so much shit that your brain really doesn't need to hold because it's not going to help
Right.
you. Yeah.
You're right, because there's so much misinformation out there. And it's just like when we always talk about the fact that you walk down the street and you're like, I'm getting divorced. And someone's like, I'm getting divorced. And then everyone has a story. And it's like, well, why can't I do what Janet's doing down the street on my divorce? There's
Man.
just so much misinformation out there. So with topics that we cover, we want to remind you to listen to the professionals. Don't ask Google or Chat GPT. Ask the professionals because that's what we're here for.
Right. This is not the time to consult your magic 8 ball.
We're back to the magic 8 ball, right? I mean, at some point, we're going to invent a magic 8 ball that actually helps you through your divorce and then totally buy it. Do everything it tells you. But until then, professionals, right?
Yes. Okay. We're going to get right to this, girlfriend, because this is a big heavy topic and I'm sure that people who are listening to it are like, okay, guys, get to the fucking point. Like I'm being deposed or I think I'm being deposed. So, why don't we start here, Morgan? By definition, what what is a deposition? What does it mean if somebody's being deposed? And is this something that a lot of people go through? Not very many people go through. Give me the 411.
All right. So I'm going to back up what a deposition is. What I want you to think about it like it's a tool in an attorney's toolbox to use during litigation. Okay, it doesn't have to be used. It's there for purposes of getting information generally before a trial. It's always there for leverage purposes or to stress out the other side, and we'll talk about that. And it's there to get the information. It's really a discovery tool, and what I mean by discovery is being able to get information. And remember, it's where you sit down, you're under oath. There's a time limit generally, depending on where you are in the United States or in other countries. Generally, there's a time limit. Where I am, it's 3 hours, unless you get the court to approve a longer deposition. But generally, 3 hours is pretty typical. And the person has 3 hours to ask questions of you under oath.
Okay. So now here come my questions. So the first thing you said was it's a way for your attorney to gather information under oath. Can you give me an example of a situation? And I also want to know, do you get cross-examined in a deposition? Is it just your attorney that's like, I mean, okay, let's think of a situation. Give me a situation where somebody would be deposed. Like, let's talk about this in specifics.
All right. So one topic where it might be somebody might be deposed is what's called dissipation. You're spending money. Let's just say that Chad is spending money on his girlfriend Sarah. And Brenda wants to know, is this really spending on your girlfriend Sarah, or wants to kind of catch him in the act?
So at what point, so Brenda goes to her attorney and she's like, Chad is spending money on Sarah. Chad is spending not money, Chad is spending marital funds on Sarah. And it's a lot. And I think that he's paying for Sarah's kid to go to college. He's spending a lot of money. We're not just talking about a little bit here, a little bit there. At what point does Brenda's attorney take this seriously to the point where, all right, then we're going to depose people?
So it all depends on the case and where it is and what your strategy is. So depositions could happen. Generally, I would say they happen towards the end of the case, because remember, you've kind of got one shot at a deposition unless the judge allows you to have more time or a second deposition, et cetera. So most lawyers are not taking depositions until you're getting close to trial or a hearing, or you have the necessary information, meaning, let's just say that you have all the documents you've requested. You have all the financial information you've requested, and you see that the court is going to start issuing trial dates at some point in the future. That might be a time where a deposition is ripe, for lack of a better word. It's time to do it, because you don't want to do it too early, because you might not have all the information. You don't want to do it too early because, a trial date, a lot of these judges run really slowly. A trial date could be way in the future. You want to do it generally right before the trial.
So, in the case of Brenda and Chad and the money being spent on Sarah, who gets deposed here? Brenda gets deposed. I don't understand.
Yeah. So if I'm Brenda's lawyer,
Uh-huh.
I'm probably going to depose Chad at some point. This is one of the many topics in a divorce that I would talk to Chad about under oath. And I would ask him with the documents. Remember, it's not just like sit down, I'm just going to blow off a ton of questions with you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring out documents. Hey, Chad, do you see this document, this bank statement, where I see that you made a huge payment to the University of Miami? Your kids don't go to Miami. Whose kid goes to Miami? Those are the questions that I would ask Chad. The other thing that we can do is we might be able to depose Sarah. There's lots of people that, if it's relevant to a divorce case to get information, you could ask to take other people's depositions.
Is it kind of like being subpoenaed?
Well, it does start with a subpoena. You get a subpoena for deposition through your attorney generally. Or if you're not in the case, you might get a subpoena for deposition to your place, of where you live, those kind of things, to say, come on in. We have some questions for you, and they're going to be under oath.
Okay, let me ask you this. The next question in my brain would be, why does someone get deposed? And I think that we pretty much just answered that, which is if there's a matter of high stakes in your case and it requires somebody going under oath and answering questions, then that's it. Is that, or is there more to it?
Well, there is more to it because as lawyers, we never want to go into a trial without knowing what the witness is going to say, right? In my mind, that's just bad practicing. So if your case is one of the few that actually go to a full trial, you're going to want likely a deposition of the other side because you're not going to want to show up the first day for the trial and just pray that you know what they're going to say when you question them. Remember, when you're under oath, the reason that people are under oath is it's very difficult to change your answers. You're getting locked into your answers there. So if Chad says under oath, well, I don't know what I did with that University of Miami payment. That wasn't me. And then we get to trial and he says, "Oh, you know what? That was me. I remember now." Well, now Chad's kind of ruined his credibility. And so the lawyer, a good lawyer, can go back and be like, "Do you remember when you said in the deposition under oath that you didn't know what happened to this payment, why this payment went out of your account? And then now, isn't it true that you're saying you remember suddenly?" Any good judge is going to start to think, I wonder if Chad is being honest here. And once you've tanked your credibility at a trial, the judge isn't stupid. They know what's going on. So it doesn't look good for Chad.
Got it. And this deposition or these and so you're saying you only get one shot at it. So you cannot depose somebody more than once. Is that correct?
Where I practice, you generally only get one shot or you get 3 hours. And anything more, you have to ask for leave of court. And I'll give you one example. So once I took a deposition, and the gentleman that I deposed was one of the litigants in the divorce case, and he thought he was being sneaky. So I think he said to my questions in a 3 hour period, "I don't know," to 165 of my questions. At that point, I went to the judge and I said, "This is what I'm dealing with. This guy said, 'I don't know,' to 165 questions, Judge. I want to redepose him, and I want you to basically sanction him for this." And the judge did. He said, "Fine, this is ridiculous. This is not what's intended to be happening with depositions. You're going to resit for another 3 hour deposition, and you better remember what's going on." And so now two things had happened. One, now the judge has this guy on his radar, right?
Mhm.
And he's not happy, and then we're going to be going to trial in front of this same judge. So, we're gonna get into how to answer questions and what is the
Yeah.
best way to be deposed, but those are things that you need to think about. Sometimes being sneaky with the other lawyer almost backfires on you.
Does a deposition happen in front of a judge?
No. Deposition generally happens in one of the lawyer's offices, and they'll have the court reporter present, etc. And I will tell you that most people who are getting deposed are really nervous.
Right.
And you should be prepping with your lawyer in advance. Any good lawyer will have a good prep session with you. And I'm talking like an hour to sometimes it's 5 hour prep session. And the prep session is going to include the way that we do it is everything I think that they're going to talk to you about, like every big bullet point item, because at this point in the case, we kind of know what the issues are. We know where the big pitfalls are, right? So your lawyer is going to bullet point or talk to you about the big ticket items that you're going to be discussing in your deposition. And then a good lawyer is going to lob questions at you as well, because we want to hear how you would answer them. And if you're answering them in a way that just doesn't make sense or could hurt your case, that's the time that the lawyer's gonna be like, "Let's think about answering it this way." And when you're asked about it so that you're prepared. Nobody wants to go into a deposition blind.
So, okay, let's say somebody's listening to this episode because they're this is what's coming up in their future. And obviously, they're going to have a prep session with their attorney like we just talked about. What are the things beyond here's what to expect and let's, role play here?
Mhm.
Um, what are the things that we really want people to make sure their attorney is covering with them so that they feel as prepared as possible? Now, and I don't know if this is like formal in your mind, like here are the three things, or if there's a ton of things that they need to know, if there's just one thing that they absolutely need to know. But in your opinion, what do you think it is?
Okay. So, what we want to do is if you're the client and you know that you've had issues with your ex, let's just say you had this big parenting blunder in your case, and that's kind of what's been driving the case. Let's say that your ex didn't pick up the child at school and the child was standing out in, the rain for 2 hours and you tried to come and it was this big fight and the police were called. Let's just make this up, right?
Okay.
Okay. You know in your mind that that is an issue that's going to be discussed because you've talked about it in your divorce case to your lawyer, maybe to a custody evaluator, maybe to a GAL or a representative for your child. You know that that's a big issue, right? So what you're going to say to your lawyer is like, I know this is coming. This is a big issue. If they start asking me about this, how do you recommend that I respond to these questions? Is there anything that I may say that might hurt me in this response? Those are things that I would come with to your lawyer saying, I'm worried about this. If there's any, I will give you some caution. If there's anything that could be a criminal issue, related to taxes, related to domestic violence, if you are in court on a domestic violence issue, those are big things that you need to talk to your lawyer about. And those are big pitfalls that could happen because if you have a criminal issue or a potential issue with the IRS looming, you have to answer it the right way to protect everybody involved.
So this is basically your time to get ahead of the problem. This is your
Exactly.
time to, even though you're not being accused of a crime, this is the time when you need to really think through everything and think, what could they possibly throw my way that could throw me off and could hurt my case? And that's what you want to learn from your attorney in this prep session is help me not fuck this up.
Yep. And I'm going to give you a secret too.
Ooh.
One of the reasons I know this is exciting, and I'm going to tell you kind of from a divorce lawyer standpoint, one of the things that we're looking for when we're deposing the other side, we want to know what kind of witness you're going to make, right? So if you come into the deposition and you are a complete lunatic fighting me on every question, two things are going to happen. One, I'm excited. I'm like, oh, yeah, this person's going to lose their, you know what, on the witness stand. The judge is going to hate them. I can't wait. So, number one, you're already hurting your case. Number two is the best part about that kind of a witness losing it is when they're losing it, they're saying things that they might not really mean because their cortisol level and their stress is so high and they're combative. And then they're kind of locked into their response. So the thing is that you want to look like a really good witness. That's what you wanna look like, and the way you can do it is being honest. I always say to my clients, they're always like, "Well, what do I say? What do I do?" They think it's some kind of a game. It's not a game. Honesty is the best policy always. You want to come off honest, you want to come off in control, because if I'm on the other side and I'm questioning you and I have a witness that looks like they've got it together, I'm worried about what the judge might do because now I'm like, okay, this is not what my client's been telling me. My client says you're a complete lunatic. And here you are, all put together, telling the truth, looking like a good witness. And at that point, I'm saying to my client afterwards, like, we have problems and we need to think about what we're going to do.
Mhm. Remind me when we get to the end, I have a little tip for people when you are in this and you're feeling really overwhelmed, how to keep your shit together. But before we get to that, when you are in this prep session with your attorney, is it likely that both parties are being deposed or is it just one person? Because what I'm wondering is everything that you just talked about, are is this prep session the appropriate time to tell your attorney, here's how to get my spouse worked up. If you want to see some fireworks and discredit her, this is what you say. It's about a
All right.
television episode and she's going to flip her shit. No, I mean, is that appropriate or do you really just need to focus on you?
Okay. That's a great question.
Thank you.
So if you're at the point of a deposition, it is highly likely that both parties are going to be deposed at some point. Okay. So let's compartmentalize it, meaning when you have the prep session with your lawyer, it's prepping you for your deposition. Stick to the facts about what could be asked of you. You should also have a session with your lawyer about exactly what Andre just said. Okay, we're going in with my ex. Now, a good lawyer is going to really prep hard for depositions. That's why not a lot of depositions happen in many cases because they're expensive, because you have to be prepared to go in and get the information. So, what I do with my clients, if you're going to depose your ex or soon to be ex, I ask my clients in advance for a bullet point list of issues that you want asked. I will tell you, many times I don't ask those questions. Why? Because they don't get us anywhere legally. Okay. You might want to ask, where were you last Saturday night? Okay, great. Great. Right. That might help you, but it definitely isn't going to help your case. But what happens is number one is it gives your lawyer the landmarks of your case that really bother you. A lot of times, a few questions do come out of what you put together. And also, if the questions don't make sense, your lawyer can say, this is why we're not going to ask this. And here's why. Let's walk it through. So it's always a good thing to do to prep your lawyer for the deposition and have also a prep session with them about how it's going to go down, how you're going to ask the questions of the person. The other thing I will tell you, let's talk about it this way, because Andrea kind of, threw it up like it was a softball, meaning you're in the middle of the deposition of your ex. Where are you? Well, you're sitting next to your lawyer. Always show up to those. Your lawyer may say you don't need to be there, etc. BS, be there. Okay. Sit down. I don't care what is going on. As long as you can keep yourself together, I want you there because you know that person sitting across the table from you better than anybody in that room. So if they're not telling the truth, you're the one that's sitting there and you'll have a notepad and you should be writing notes to your lawyer. So if something is wrong, you can tell them in the flesh. The worst thing is to get a transcript, a few weeks later and be like, "What? That was a lie. You didn't follow up on that?" Well, no, because you weren't there. So you want to be there and you want to keep it together. You can also take breaks. You can also step out with your lawyer and talk to them about some of the things that are happening in real time.
Okay. So let's
So,
recap that little part that we just went through. So we know that there's going to be a prep session. In this prep session, you want to know what are the ways that I could possibly totally mess this up and how do I not do that? You also want to come to that prep session with your attorney prepared. Come with the shit that they could possibly throw your way and ask how to get ahead of it. Guys, if you are at this point in your divorce, you are already spending money like the way that we should all be drinking water. So be mindful about how you spend your time in this prep session, meaning do the homework before you get there. Don't show up and think, okay, let me just take a minute here and like write down, okay, bitch, money, 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 money. Think before you get there. Also, when we're talking about like how to help your attorney possibly depose your ex and have those, all those questions, do that at a separate time because it's going to take your mind in two different directions. And that is not a good way to spend your money. So, in your prep appointment, you are focusing on you. If you need to set up a separate appointment to just discuss the things that could possibly trip up your spouse, or you making that bullet point list of the things that you really want asked, and then your attorney decides whether or not they actually ask them, that is a separate conversation. Okay. So
mm,
your
yep.
attorney is going to help you with what to expect. And your big homework is w- thinking of the things that could be lobbed your way that could really trip you up.
Right. And remember this too. What you don't want to have happen, and this has happened to me so many times, you don't want your attorney to pull you out of the deposition in the middle of it and say, get your shit together,
Mhm.
calm down, stop looking like, you are hiding things. You want to go in and not have that happen at all. So, honesty is the best policy, but also knowing how you're answering questions. And one thing you might want to ask your lawyer, because at this point, if you're down the road of a deposition, you've probably been with your lawyer for quite some time. So you ask the hard question of your lawyer. What do you think I could really do to tank my case in the deposition. Personality-wise, answer-wise, etcetera. You're basically opening up the conversation to your lawyer because your lawyer's seen your behavior. Your lawyer's
Mhm.
seen how you act during this case, and it's giving your lawyer the ability to say with honesty where you could mess up your case rather than dancing around it because lawyers don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, etcetera. But if you're opening that door and you are receptive to real feedback, that is gonna be beautiful for your case because you're going to go in there and kill it. I will tell you the best depositions sometimes settle cases right after them, because
Ooh,
if you go come in and you are an amazing witness and the other side sees that, a lot of times they come to the table to negotiate. If you go in and you're a horrible witness, you've just empowered the other side. And you've also potentially pissed off the divorce attorney on the other side. So now you have 2 problems. You've got your ex who's mad, and now you have your ex's lawyer who's mad, and now they're going to the ends of the earth to really just kind of throw you against the wall at trial. You don't want that. You
no.
wanna come in and be the person that they didn't expect.
Okay, so I have some thoughts. Number one, in addition to everything that we just said about what you should ask your attorney, I want to add on something that I like to do that I feel like really helped me. And this is, and I was not deposed, but this is what helped me when I had hearings and other things. I would ask my attorney, we're going to play a game. Best case scenario, worst case scenario, and what does your gut tell you is going to be the realistic outcome? And that those questions really help you frame up your mind for what's gonna happen. So think about that. So again, you're gonna give your attorney all of the information. Do not lie. That is not gonna help you. And then ask the questions and then please compartmentalize. Save the shit about your ex for another time. We are prepping for you. Be a good witness. Be likable. Don't be a
Right.
dick. Being a defensive dick is not going to win you any points. It's going to hurt you. Now, here's my tip. It is really, really hard to go through a deposition and not lose your shit, especially for those of you who listen to our show who are going going through this process with matters that are really high stakes. And I know everyone's matter is high stakes, but let's say it's not about money. Let's say it's about your kids. Okay. And you're really fucking emotional. And let's say that you're divorcing somebody who's incredibly manipulative, um, who is abusive, and you feel like you are drowning. What do you do? That's really hard. You are tasked with something that feels impossible. Here is my pro tip from someone who I've applied this, and this is a little actor lesson for you all. When you feel like you are being put on the spot and someone is trying to trip you up, or they're saying something that is really frustrating you or really hurting you, and you want to fly across the table and say, "You motherfucker," stop and smile. By moving your muscles upwards like this and smiling before you talk, you're giving yourself a chance to regroup. You're going to breathe in and you're going to repeat the end of that question before you start to speak. Give yourself that launch pad instead of just, well, we understand that you da 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 da. Da." Instead of saying, I absolutely did not, because that's when the tears are going to start coming. Say, okay, I understand you want to ask about this. Okay. So, and you need to think, how are my words going to help me? You have to know. And if you see your ex across the room and they're writing things down furiously, and that's driving you nuts, and you want to say, put down your fucking pen, stupid. Like, I know what you're trying to do. Just recognize what they're trying to do and smile through it. Do you have anything else, Morgan, that you tell your clients when they're like really emotional?
Yes. So, in a deposition, if you're the one being deposed, you're giving the information. This is not the time in your mind to win your case. Okay. I know everyone thinks, I think there's this misconception. They go into these depositions and they think, this is my time to have vomit of the mouth because I'm going to win my case in this deposition. No, that is not the point. I don't want you to have vomit of the mouth. I
Supposed to
want you
answer.
to answer the question succinctly. Don't give more information. So let's do a role play here. Let me tell you what would be good and what would not be good. Okay. So question could be, did you last Monday pick up your son at the time that your son gets out of school at 3 p.m.? Okay. Your answer could be no. And now you know that there's a reason that you didn't pick them up. But the best way to answer that is no. Why? Because then they may say to you, well, why? Or they will ask for more information. Here, let me do it again. And then I'm going to give you the bad answer. Did you pick up your son last Monday at 3 p.m.? No, I didn't. And the reason I didn't do it is because he told me he was getting them. And then he sent me a text that told me to go screw myself and I didn't get him. And then the teacher called and now you have gone into this complete nightmare. That is not what your lawyer wants. Your lawyer wants a very succinct answer because we don't want to give more to the other side that they didn't ask for.
If you let me
So
just let's just stay on that topic. Let's say the answer is no. You picked them up at, let's say that the scheduled time that day was not 3 PM. Let's say the child had an extracurricular whatever, and they were actually picked up at 4:30 that day, but you got the child at the time that the child is done. Is that a possible question that someone is throwing at you to trip you up and to say, "Oh, so you didn't
yes.
get them at the right time when they actually were staying on Wednesdays for creative writing?"
Good question. I would still advise my client just to say no and don't go into it.
Mhm.
Why? Because your lawyer, when you go to a trial or a hearing, will be able to ask you the why. And if
Okay.
you gave up the information at that deposition without them asking for it, you've basically kind of pulled away your leverage. So it might feel at that moment like, but I just want to say this because I didn't do anything wrong. But now you're giving away leverage potentially for a trial because you're going to look amazing when your lawyer says, okay, why didn't you pick up your son at 3 p.m.? And you're going to say, well, because he had creative writing and my ex doesn't even know where this child is. And I got him right at 4:30, which is when creative writing ended. Now the judge is going to be like, yeah, what the hell is going on here? But you wouldn't get that same response if you had vomited the mouth and said, "Yeah, I didn't pick him up because he had creative writing and blah, 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 blah." So, no is the right answer there, even though it's so hard. It's so hard.
Yep. Yep. And what I'm hearing you say is let your attorney drive the boat. Let your attorney be
Absolutely.
the one to ask you the questions. Give the shortest answer possible. Be professional, be respectful, be polite, but don't give more information. You are actually not helping your case. Trust that your attorney will ask the appropriate follow-up question.
One other thing I want to mention, you know, it's hard because some lawyers who take depositions, it depends on the case, but it also depends on the lawyer. Some can be very respectful. I usually
Mhm.
take the respectful approach because I find that if I take an approach different than that, usually I don't get the information I want. And remember, the reason you're getting or taking a deposition is to get good information so you're not shocked and you've got them under oath. Think about it this way. If an attorney comes in and it starts out, just being a complete jerk and very accusatory, very nasty questioning, that kind of thing, they're
Yeah.
not going to get as much information, but those attorneys do exist out there. So you have to be prepared and you want to ask your attorney what to expect with the other attorney. What I want you to know is if you have a very combative attorney asking you questions, I need you to stay calm and respectful because the minute it goes off the rails, you're not going to be able to get it back. So let's just say it's a male attorney questioning you and let's just say you're Chad being questioned and it's a male attorney. And this male attorney is, being really, really rude. First of all, your attorney should be helping to calm the situation and say, I've had attorneys say, if you're going to keep doing this, you're harassing my client. If you're going to keep doing this, we're ending this deposition and we're leaving and we'll deal with the court later. However, If that person is very combative during the questioning, I want you to, no, sir. Yes, sir. That's a great way to answer the questions to kind of calm things down, but also let them know they're not rattling you. So stay exactly like Andrea said. I want you to stay classy in the deposition, no matter how bad your buttons are being pushed.
So the ruder they get, the kinder, more polite Southern manners you get.
I think it's a great response. Number one, it will take the tension out of the air. It will kind of take the wind out of their sails. If you're not biting, they want you to bite on that. They want you to get crazy. And if you don't, first of all, you're going to look like a great witness that they don't want to deal with at a court.
Mhm. So, okay. So beyond lying, losing your shit, blabbing on and on and on, what are some other really big mistakes that you see people make that we don't want people to make? Because I feel like sometimes, we give all these action steps, which are great, but I feel like people also learn from the things that we tell people not to do because they're like, oh shit, I didn't realize that that's a big no no. So, what else do we want to make sure people know? Like, this is how you fuck it up.
I think it's case by case, and this is something that you have to talk to your attorney about. And like you said, Andrea, ask your attorney, how can I mess this up? Ask them that because they're going to know. The biggest mess up truly is your behavior, but also your nonstop talking. We don't want run-on sentences. We want it short and sweet response-wise. And don't try to fight them. They might show you documents. If they show you a document, that's your document. Did you spend this on this day at this place? Yes, I did. Or if, one thing I always say to people, if you truly don't know, say, I can't recall. I don't know that. That's okay. What's not okay is if you don't recall the entire deposition questioning. That's not okay. We know that that's not okay. Everybody knows that. So, but I don't want people to be worried about the fact that maybe 4 years ago, if they're asking you about some incident, you can't recall it. You don't know 100%. And I'd rather you not answer guessing. So don't guess. You want to know the facts that you're responding to. And if you don't know, then say, I don't know. Unfortunately, it was a really long time ago. I don't recall that.
Is it appropriate while you're being deposed to ask to speak to your attorney?
It is, but most of the time it's only appropriate after you answer a question. So you can't have somebody say to you, is it true that you didn't pick up your son last Monday at 3 p.m.? And then you say to your lawyer, can we talk about that? That's not appropriate. You have to
Okay.
answer the question, and then it's totally appropriate to say, hey, I need a bathroom break. I need 5 minutes. I would like to talk to my lawyer, that kind of thing. Remember, anything you say to your lawyer is confidential. So you don't want to go out and say, well, my lawyer just said X, Y, and Z in the deposition. That's totally confidential. It should not come into a deposition. And you are free to talk to your lawyer at any point, assuming there's no question pending.
Okay. All right. So let's do the big recap before I ask you some more entertaining questions because I have a feeling you've got some good stories to make me laugh. Um, let's say somebody is really overwhelmed. Let's just say people are overwhelmed. They're listening to this episode and their brain is like, "Oh my god, I want to make sure that I walk away from this like knowing more than I did when I pushed play." So, the biggest things we want you to know are what? You go first, I'll throw things in.
All right. Number one, if your lawyer doesn't advance it, you're going to ask for a prep session and you're going to come prepared. Okay. And you're going to ask your lawyer those hard questions. What can I do to really tank this case? What do you think they're looking for? What, just come out of the gate and say it. What are things that you see about me that would not come out well in a deposition that I can do better? That's number one.
Okay, well, you just said come prepared. We want them to come prepared with what? All of the things that you think could possibly be thrown your way that could throw you off. Is there anything else that we're asking them to come to that meeting with?
I think the big bullet points of your case that you have talked about for the last, year, bring the big bullet points and then bring things. This is a hard part, but we've talked about it with different therapists. Bring the down and dirty secrets that you're worried about secretly, but that you haven't maybe said out loud and say, how do I handle this if it comes up?
Okay. All right. We also want you to make sure that you are asking your attorney for a realistic expectation of what's going to happen. You want to ask
Mm.
them, okay, what is this going to look like? What are the questions that you think are going to be thrown my way? And I think I would also say, I mean, we already said before, you want to know best case scenario, worst case scenario, in your opinion, what's the most realistic scenario? Also, your attorney likely knows opposing counsel. So I would say, how does this person tend to frame up questions? If you know that you get tripped up easily, I would say, does this attorney ask questions that are very straightforward? Do they go on and on and on a lot? Are they going to try to trip me up? Um, and I would also say, attorney, what are the questions that I haven't asked you that I should be asking you? I want to do well. And doing well, to Morgan's really big point, is answer the question succinctly.
Yep,
Yes, no. Do not give more information until you are asked. This is not your time to win your case.
exactly. Second thing to do, keep your shit together. We know that it's really hard, but remember, the reason that you're giving the deposition isn't just for the information, it's for opposing counsel to see how good or bad of a witness you will be. You want to come off as a great witness because it will only be helpful to your case. Even if it's so hard, grit your teeth, smile. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Keep it together because you will come out of there so much better off.
Okay. And lastly, what's the last thing that we need them to know?
The last thing to know is you can take breaks. You can take a breather. You can write your lawyer notes. There's lots of things that you can do to kind of calm yourself during the deposition. It's going to be pretty scary for about the first 20 minutes, but then when you're in the groove, you're going to start calming down during that deposition. So things will be okay. I just want you to know that if you're getting deposed, things will be okay. This is not the end of the world. This is a tool in the attorney's toolbox to prep for a trial. This is not like black and white, your case is over. So as long as you go in there and you're honest and you're a good witness, everything will be fine.
Okay, I love that you said that because I think that that's really important for people to know that the first 20 minutes are going to be the hardest. So get through it. You're going to find your groove. It won't feel as scary as it does when you first walk into that room and you're like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. But speaking of, oh shit, I am begging you, entertain me with some of the wild things that you have seen or heard of in a deposition. Like, I think that people need a laugh right now.
Okay. All right. These are what not to do that I've seen.
Uh-huh.
So these are what not to do. So I had a woman come in that I was taking her deposition, and I think she was so worried about the deposition that I don't know if she was drinking beforehand or took a bunch of pills. But during the deposition, she literally, as I'm questioning her, fell asleep, like sitting upright, just like snoring. And her lawyer was so confused. I didn't see it coming, but she was kind of slurring for the first few questions and then just took a straight up nap during the deposition. It was unbelievable. And I kind of felt bad for her, but also I was like, what is happening here? So that is a do not do that.
Wait, who woke her up? Do you
Her
remember?
lawyer, her lawyer.
She, like, nudged her? I mean, did you guys
Yes.
cover her with the blanket and, like, let her sleep for a while? Like, I just, like, can you imagine,
I
Morgan,
put on a
how
sound machine for her.
uh-huh, uh-huh, you're like, "This is what I do for my kids." But, like,
Night night.
night, night, but, like, can you wait, can you imagine though, Morgan, being that poor woman and then waking up and you're like, "Okay,
Yes.
I'm so sorry. Where
Right.
were you?" I mean,
Where am I? How about that?
right? Oh my, it reminds me of when, we were in high school and you're so tired and you like, I cannot believe that I actually fell asleep in class. And you wake up and you're so disoriented and you
Yep.
don't know whether the people around you know that you were just sleeping and you
Yes,
don't know how to
exactly.
act. You're like,
Mhm.
What did she do? Do you remember what her demeanor was like when she woke up?
Oh, just straight confusion, and we were all sitting there, and then, unfortunately, as lawyers, we only get 3 hours, so I'm telling her lawyer, I'm like, "I'm really sorry, but I'm taking off the time she's sleeping, like, I need those minutes back." So so her snooze, I get minutes back on the end of this deposition.
Can you imagine getting that invoice from your attorney, like part of the billable hours? Well, I'm sorry, you were asleep, but we were all working. Oh my
Yes,
god.
I've and then I'll
Huh?
give you one more story.
Okay, okay.
This was not my deposition, but it's somebody that I know was taking a deposition, and the other side who they were deposing got so angry at the lawyer taking the deposition that they had a cup of coffee in front of them, and they stood up and threw the coffee all over the lawyer. Which I would not recommend because that's assault, that's criminal, you can go to jail for that, but also, the divorce court is not going to be okay with something like that. You're pretty much just tanked your entire case because you couldn't keep it together.
Was it hot coffee?
Hot coffee.
Like a latte or like a black, because also, like, where did that, like, that could have been like an expensive,
Oh,
I thought
yeah.
an expensive cup of
Yes, this woman who threw it had to pay for the dry cleaning of the suit for the lawyer. I mean, this was like a whole thing.
Can you imagine, like, being that and then you gotta tell me offline who this attorney was, because I just wanna know, like, how they react to having coffee all over them, like, "Well, drying it off day at the end."
Well, that
Like,
was inappropriate.
"Uh-huh, okay, well," and then they, like, lick the side, they're like, "Huh, hazelnut?" Like, "Would have taken me for a caramel girl."
Yep,
T
yep. I've had people get up in the middle of the deposition, say they're going to the bathroom and just never return.
that would be
Mhm.
me. Yes, you're doing it. I have to go potty, and she was never seen again.
Never seen again. Never seen again. Those are all like, "Don't do it." Those look really bad, and the judge is not thrilled, not amused. Nothing good comes of those things.
But
So,
I get
anyway,
it.
now
I get it, but here's the thing, like, and I feel like this is why it's important to have somebody, in people's ears saying, like, "I get it. I get wanting to throw the coffee." Of course,
yes.
somebody's poking and prodding, and you just wanna say, "Shut the fuck up. Shut up." But here's the thing, you can write down a little note to yourself, remember to tell the girls later, all the things that you would have done, and you and your friends can laugh and laugh and laugh, right? If you have that kind of relationship with your attorney, you wanna joke
Yeah,
around after the fact, fine, but, like, don't it is not gonna help you. Do not react. You've gotta smile. 3, answer the question succinctly. And I think I wanna go back to that because that will help people so much. If you think about it, we feel so much pressure because we think, "Well, I have to go into this whole story right now," but no, you don't. No,
you do
you don't.
not,
Not
and you
on
should.
You're not on trial right now. We're just gathering information. Yes, you can't lie. Yes, you're under oath, but we didn't ask for a full story. So remember, this is just a time where they're gathering information. You are prepping to go into a trial. This is not your trial. It's your attorney's job to put your information in a real nice, pretty package with a little bow on top. And so that your points will be stated in the most succinct way for the judge. Let your attorney drive the boat on this. Answer the questions. Don't give more information. Okay. Listen, guys, I know that if this is an episode that you were scrolling through and you're like, fuck, I need to listen to this, your mental state is probably like, "Ugh, ugh," and your emotional state is, we get it. We wanted to give you the right information so that you don't go to the Google machine and start typing in your questions and get all of the stuff that you really don't need to know, because that information is going to take up space in your brain. Just know what we told you, okay? Take a breath, take a walk. It is going to be okay. And that's another reason why we do this show. because we want to get you the right information in the most succinct way, just like how we want you to be succinct when you're being deposed. We're trying our very best to be succinct when we're giving you information as to how not to suck through your way at getting divorced. We know it's a sucky process, but believe me, you get a choice for how you go through this. Don't spend all of your money by falling asleep during your deposition. You won't like that. I'm telling you right now, you might get a good nap in, but do that at home. Guys, if you know a friend, you know anybody in your world who could help, who could have the help by listening to this episode, send this episode their way. If you haven't yet joined the private community, join the private community. We work so hard to have so many different avenues to help you guys because that's what this show is about. If you've listened to the show before, you know that I had a horrible time navigating my divorce. I don't want other people to suffer the way that I suffered. I don't want other people's children to suffer unnecessarily. Morgan is offering her years and years and years of legal experience so that you feel like you can take all of this knowledge and put your best foot forward. So, guys, if you haven't yet done this, rate and review the show. That would mean so much to us. When we are going and trying to find the very best guests to bring you, for some reason, they always want to check out the ratings of the show. So, the more the better. We want to bring you the very best of the very best information. We are here for you. We are going to support you on the good days, the bad days, and the really fucking bad days. And remember, whether you're being deposed or you feel like disposing yourself in a garbage can, don't, because you have got this, and friend, we have got you.